Two men, same age, same paycheck, same city. In 10 years, one of them will be sitting in a coffee shop on a Tuesday morning with nowhere he has to be, watching money he'll never work for land in his account. The other will still be catching up to something he can't quite name. From the outside today, you cannot tell them apart. The only difference is a single quiet decision one of them is about to make tonight, alone at almost midnight, over a cup of coffee that's already gone cold. So, let's follow it. Level 1. The decision, the coffee has gone cold, and that's the part you'll remember later. Not the spreadsheet glowing on the laptop, not the number you've circled 3 times in red pen, just the cold coffee, the clock reading almost midnight, and the particular quiet of an apartment where the only sounds are the refrigerator humming and your own breathing. You're 25. You make a normal salary, the kind that feels like plenty on the 1st of the month, and almost nothing by the 28th. You've got a little in savings, some student debt, and a credit card balance you've been meaning to pay off for so long that meaning to has stopped feeling like a plan and started feeling like a personality trait. And tonight you do something that, if you tried to explain it to anyone, would sound completely unremarkable. You decide to stop. Not quit your job, not sell everything, and move to a cabin. You just decide to stop letting money slide through your hands with no direction at all. You decide that a big chunk of every dollar you earn from now on is going to go toward killing that debt and then into boring, low-cost investments, and the rest is going to quietly run your life. That's it. No guru handed you this, no best-selling book. It came from a calculator and the kind of quiet desperation you were finally willing to look at straight on. My name is Nick, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, and especially about the invisible decisions that reshape a life without anyone noticing they happened. So let's follow one. 10 years, level by level, of what it actually feels like to live this way. And if this pulls you in, a like genuinely helps it reach other people. All right, the coffee's cold, you pour it out, and something quietly begins. One quick honest thing before we go further, because I don't want to sell you a fantasy. The version of this you're about to watch is deliberately extreme. This person saves at a rate most people can't and frankly shouldn't force, and they pay a real price for it that we're not going to hide. This isn't a prescription, it's a story about the shape of a choice so you can see the trade-offs clearly and decide which pieces, if any, are actually for you. Okay, back to the apartment. Level 2, the silence. 3 months in, a friend of yours buys a brand new apartment. Not new to him, new. One of those glass and concrete buildings downtown with a gym that overlooks the skyline. You go to the housewarming, you stand in his beautiful living room eating good cheese off a wooden board, and you feel something you weren't braced for. You feel invisible. Not because anyone's unkind, everyone's lovely. But nobody here is asking about your index fund. Nobody's admiring your brokerage balance the way they're admiring the kitchen island. You've been at this for 11 weeks. You've knocked a chunk off the credit card. You've cut your subscriptions down to almost nothing. You drive an older paid-off car that gets great mileage and that not one single person has ever asked you about. You've quietly rerouted your paycheck so that a big piece of it vanishes into investments the day it lands, before you can touch it. You're building something real. You know that the way you know a fact correctly in your head without being able to feel it yet. And here's what nobody tells you about choosing a simpler financial life. The social cost is real and it comes first. You pay it up front before the math has had any time to prove you right. You pay it in 1,000 tiny gaps where the status conversation would have gone. The friend who stops asking if you want in on the vacation rental because they already know your answer. The colleague who stops inviting you to the expensive Thursday nights out. Your account has barely anything in it yet. It doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like a number in a box that nobody else can see. But somewhere across the city, in a room with better lighting, something is starting that nobody at that party can see either. A gap is opening. Level 3, the gap. 2 years in, the debt is gone. All of it. And the feeling when you make that last payment isn't triumph, it's quieter than that. It's the strange sensation of a low hum you'd stop noticing simply going silent. You redirect every dollar that was going to debt straight into investing. No celebration, no lifestyle upgrade, and this is the rule you were most afraid of. The one that actually matters most. When you get a raise, your life doesn't get more expensive, you get one, and instead of upgrading anything, you just quietly send more into the investments and carry on. And here's the thing the research keeps saying in a dozen different ways. Your savings rate matters more than your income, more than picking the perfect fund, more than timing anything. The math works if you let it. Most people never let it. By now you've got a real chunk invested. It's not a number anyone tells a story about at dinner. It doesn't photograph. But it's quietly doing something patient and exponential while you go about your life. Meanwhile, you've got a friend. Let's call him Devin. Same age, similar income, same city. Devin just financed a very expensive truck with a payment that eats a big slice of his month. Devin is warm and funny and genuinely great at what he does, one of the first people you'd call if something went wrong. And Devin has, as far as you can tell, almost nothing invested anywhere. The truck is spotless. He's proud of it. And you get it completely, without a shred of judgment, because you know exactly what that truck represents, because it's the same thing you were reaching for at 25 before you found another way. From the outside, you and Devin look like the same guy. Same bracket, same orbit. But underneath, something is already split so completely that in 5 years you'll barely be able to see each other across the distance. Because here's what compound interest actually is, stripped of the inspirational poster language. It's time. That's the whole mechanism. Every dollar you invest now has more years to do its one job than a dollar invested later. You're not really buying stocks, you're buying time. And you're still invisible, still quiet, still building in the dark. Level 4, the pressure. Year 3, something cracks. Not the plan. The plan is working perfectly. What cracks is harder to name, and it lives somewhere below language. It shows up on a Friday night in October when you're sitting in your clean, deliberately empty apartment and you feel out of nowhere and with real force alone. Not lonely exactly, alone. The specific aloneness of walking a path that keeps diverging from everyone else's. You skipped a group trip that month, not because you couldn't have afforded a modest version of it, you could have, but the modest version didn't fit the energy of the group, which was loud and expensive and running on credit nobody was thinking hard about. And you did the math, because you can't stop doing the math in any situation involving money now, and the number, once you factored in what that money would have become over the years, felt too big, so you stayed home. And a group photo came in at 2 in the morning, everyone looking like the best possible version of themselves, and you put your phone face down and sat with the question you'd been avoiding. Is this the point? Are you optimizing your life, or are you just sitting it out in spreadsheet form? Here's what nobody warns you about chasing this kind of freedom in your late 20s. It's a countercultural act. The entire machinery of modern life, the ads, the feeds, the algorithms, is engineered with enormous money and precision to make spending feel not just nice but correct, like what grown-ups do, like what people who have it together do. Opting out doesn't feel neutral, it feels like dissent, and dissent is hard to hold alone. At 27 on a Friday night while your phone keeps lighting up with somewhere loud and warm and alive. You question all of it that month. The rules, the math, the whole person this is building toward. And then, near the bottom of that stretch, you open your account and actually look. Level 5, the turning point. You have to read the number twice. You've been at this consistently for almost 3 years now. There was a rough patch a while back where the market dropped and your balance actually shrank for a few weeks, and you felt something cold in your stomach that you did not act on, which turns out to have been one of the most important financial decisions of your life. You did nothing. You stayed in. And it recovered and kept going. And now the number in front of you is genuinely substantial, built entirely from an ordinary income and a stubborn refusal to inflate your life. You sit with it for a long time, and this is the turning point. But it doesn't feel like a movie. No swelling music, nobody claps. You're just on your couch in an apartment that costs a fraction of your income, looking at a pile of money that is now working while you sleep. Devin bought new rims for the truck last month. They look great, you told him so, and you meant it. You also know, because you can't unsee this math anymore, roughly what that money could have become if it had gone the other way. Not because you're judging Devin, you're not, but because the math is just always running now. Like a second language you learned late and can't stop thinking in. And here's the inflection the whole thing was building toward. Somewhere in year 3 or 4, the account stops feeling like a number and starts feeling like time. Actual, tangible, convertible units of future freedom. Your investments are now throwing off real money every year entirely on their own, without your work, without you doing anything but leaving them alone. It's not a huge amount yet, but it's the beginning of something that doesn't stop. It doubles and doubles again and becomes something that years from now will quietly out-earn your rent. You feel it for the first time, not the intellectual certainty, the felt weight of accumulated patience in your body. The doubt from October doesn't vanish. It just becomes a smaller voice underneath a larger, calmer, more certain one. You bump up your automatic investment before you can talk yourself out of it. And the week after, you take Devin to lunch, split a reasonable bill, and laugh harder than you have in months. The path is still long, but you can see the direction now. Level 6. The arrival year 8, you're sitting in a coffee shop on a Tuesday at 10 in the morning, with nowhere you have to be until the afternoon. This isn't a vacation or a sick day, it's just a Tuesday. And this is what enough looks like from the inside. It looks like a coffee you actually finish while it's still hot. The account is now well into the hundreds of thousands, built with no inheritance, no lottery, no viral moment, just a decade of the same quiet choices. And this was never about retiring at 33. Your number was always a specific target, the point where a safe, modest withdrawal covers your basics, so that combined with work you actually choose to do, your survival is no longer hostage to whatever someone else decides to pay you for your hours. Options. That was always the real word underneath all of it. Not stuff, not status. Options. You're not fully at the number yet, but you can feel its edge now. The shape of the life on the other side. The old car still runs, meticulously maintained, because a reliable paid-off car is quietly one of the best financial decisions a person can make. You've gone years with no car payment, and if you run what that alone became over that time, it's staggering. One decision compounded, and Devin finally bought a house last year. The mortgage is steep, and the down payment took nearly everything he had, but it's real and it's his, and he's proud. You went to the housewarming, ate food he grilled, stood in his backyard, and felt something uncomplicated for the first time in years. Just pride. For both of you. The comparison that used to cut has gone quiet because you've started to understand what arrival actually is. It's not a place you reach and stand on, it's a line you cross, where the future finally costs less than the present did, where you stop buying time and time starts arriving on its own. Level 7, the truth you reach and stand on, it's a line you cross, where the future finally costs less than the present did. Where you stop buying time and time starts arriving on its own. That first spreadsheet, except the silence means something completely different now. Because here's what you thought you were doing when you started. You thought you were solving a money problem. You thought the rules were about math. The high savings rate, the no car payment, the boring index funds, the refusal to inflate your life. You thought those were financial tools you were wielding with discipline. What you were actually doing was practicing a philosophy you couldn't fully see from the start. Because minimalism in the money sense was never really about having less, it was about one relentless, honest daily question, asked of every purchase and every expense. What is this actually for, and is it giving me what I think I'm buying? The old car was for transportation, and it delivered exactly that with zero waste. The subscriptions you cut were for entertainment that turned out to be marginal and replaceable. They didn't survive the question, and the raises you refused to spend went somewhere real, somewhere that compounds, somewhere that now pays you every year without you lifting a finger. And here's the part nobody tells you after a decade of this. The money isn't the thing you're most grateful for. It's the clarity. That 10-year habit of asking, what is this for, leaked into everything, far past dollars. Your relationships got cleaner. Your time got more deliberate. You stopped maintaining appearances you never believed in. By every outside measure, you're unremarkable. The apartment is nice. The car is old. The vacations are chosen for the experience instead of the photo. And by every inside measure that matters, and only to you, you're exactly where you chose to be. Devin said something at dinner recently that stuck with you. You said he feels like he's always catching up to something, and he doesn't know what. You knew. You didn't say it because it wasn't the moment. What he's chasing is the same thing you were chasing at 25. The feeling of having arrived. The permission to finally exhale. But that feeling can't be bought, and that's the truth underneath every level of this story. Not that spending is wrong. Not that wanting beautiful things is a flaw. Not that Devin's truck was a sin and your old car was enlightenment. The truth is simpler and harder than that. The feeling of having arrived can't be purchased because it doesn't live in anything you can acquire. It lives in the relationship you have with your own future. In whether you trust that you're building something real even when nobody can see it. Even when the party is somewhere else. Even when the photos come in at 2 in the morning. When you trust that, the need to perform arrival quiets down. Not completely, you're human, but it stops being the only voice in the room. So here's what I'll leave you with, and it's the whole thing, really. The rules were never the point. They were just a structure for holding one question, and the question the rules kept forcing you back to every year, every time money moved, was never can I afford this, and never do I deserve this. It was who am I building with this? And asked honestly, over 10 years, without flinching, that single question will do more for your life than any financial decision ever could. Quick reminder that I'm not a financial advisor and this isn't financial advice. And please, don't treat one person's extreme path as a rulebook for yours. Take the pieces that fit and leave the rest. If this one landed for you, a like and a share genuinely help, and I'd love to hear in the comments which level you're standing in right now. The coffee's still hot. Finish it before it goes cold. I'll see you in the next one.